Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to admit, usually when we sit down to prep for these, I have a general roadmap in my head. I think, okay, I know the basics, let's find the nuance. But today's stack, it genuinely unsettled me. I felt like I was reading about a completely different planet than the one I've been living on.
It is a heavy one today,
Okay.
but it's also, I think, incredibly necessary.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're looking at a stack of research centered on the work of the Mirelle Institute for Anti-Aging Medicine and Dr. Corina Ianculovici.
Right.
And honestly, it made me realize that our cultural understanding of menopause is not just incomplete. It might be fundamentally wrong.
Like fundamentally.
Like looking through the wrong end of the telescope wrong. We tend to think of menopause as the end.
The end of periods, the end of fertility.
Exactly, the end of youth. It's framed almost exclusively as an ovaries are retiring story.
Yeah.
But Dr. Ianculovici's research flips that script entirely. She isn't calling it a reproductive event. She calls it a neurological event.
And that one shift in language changes everything. It changes how you diagnose it, how you treat it, how you live through it.
It's a huge shift.
Because if you view menopause as an issue with the ovaries, you treat the ovaries. But if you view it as a neuroendocrine reorganization,
That's the term she used.
that's the term, you realize the epicenter of the earthquake isn't the pelvis, it's the brain.
Reorganization. I stuck a literal Post-it note on my desk with that word.
Yeah.
Because reorganization implies a process with a goal. It implies, renovation. Whereas everything I've ever heard about menopause implies decline.
Just the slow, sad slide into irrelevance, which is a terrible narrative,
It's
right?
awful.
And it's damaging psychologically. But this reorganization concept is rooted in hard neuroscience. The brain is literally restructuring itself.
Okay.
And we have three massive insights from this research to get through today. First, we need to talk about what that restructuring actually looks like and the, frankly, frightening correlation it has with divorce rates.
That part was wild. I actually gasped when I saw the chart.
It is stark. Then we have to get into the superhormone concept, why estrogen is doing way, way more than just managing your cycle.
Right.
And finally, we need to have a serious technical conversation about why standard treatments, specifically antidepressants, might be chemically blocking the very recovery women are trying to achieve.
Okay, that last part is going to be controversial, but the mechanism they describe is fascinating. So let's start at the top. The brain. Why is the brain, freaking out just because the ovaries are clocking out?
Because they're essentially business partners. They're in a tight endocrine circuit.
Sure.
For 30 or 40 years, the ovaries have been the primary supplier of estrogen. And the brain is a massive consumer of estrogen. It's the fuel source.
So this isn't just about reproduction. This is about operations.
Exactly. When perimenopause hits and that supply chain gets disrupted, hormones fluctuating, dropping, spiking, the brain enters a state of crisis. It's an energy crisis.
An energy crisis.
Yeah, the source material references neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who's done extensive imaging studies on this. When estrogen drops, the brain's ability to metabolize glucose, basically its ability to eat, plummets.
So the brain fog women talk about, the walking into a room and forgetting why you're there, that's not a metaphor.
No.
That is a starving brain.
Literally, the neurons are struggling to fire because their fuel mix has changed. But it's where this happens that is so critical to your personality.
Where's the brain?
The structural changes are most acute in the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, and the amygdala.
The heavy hitters.
The CEO, the librarian, and the security guard.
Right.
The prefrontal cortex handles executive function, impulse control. The hippocampus is memory. And the amygdala, that's emotional regulation and threat detection.
Okay, hold on. Let's map this out. If my prefrontal cortex, my impulse control, is starving for energy, and my amygdala, my threat detector, is unstable. That sounds like a recipe for absolute behavioral chaos.
It is. And that leads us directly to that statistic you mentioned earlier, the divorce window.
I looked at this chart from the U.S. Census Bureau and the American Community Survey 3 times to make sure I was reading it right.
It jumps out at you.
It's a massive spike. 44% of all divorces occurring specifically between the ages of 45 and 54.
Which lines up almost perfectly with the average age of perimenopause and menopause.
Now, the skeptic in me, and probably the listener too, says, well, sure, that's also when the kids leave home.
The empty nest, right?
Yeah. Maybe people just look at each other across the breakfast table and realize they don't like each other anymore.
And that is the standard sociological explanation. But Dr. Ianculovici challenges us to look at the biological one.
Okay.
If your amygdala is hyperreactive because it's losing estrogen, and your prefrontal cortex is too tired to dampen that reaction, your conflict tolerance hits zero.
Conflict tolerance. That is such a useful phrase.
Think about it. Things that you could shrug off 5 years ago, chewing too loudly, leaving a towel on the floor, a sarcastic comment, suddenly trigger a fight-or-flight response.
Whoa.
The research suggests that a lot of women feel a sudden intense irritability or even rage that feels alien to them. They don't recognize themselves.
So a woman might be sitting there thinking, I hate my husband or my marriage is broken, but the reality might be.
The reality might be.
My brain is currently under construction and I have lost the neurochemical ability to be patient.
It forces a massive reframing of relationship dynamics in midlife. Dr. Ianculovici argues that relationship strain during this window is often a neurological symptom.
Not necessarily a marital failing. That's tragic, actually, how many marriages end because neither person understands that there's a biological storm happening.
Probably a lot. And it's compounded by the fact that the woman often feels like she's going crazy because she doesn't understand the scope of what estrogen actually does. She thinks, I'm just hormonal. But she doesn't realize hormonal means neurological.
Which brings us to the superhormone idea. Because again, if you asked me yesterday what estrogen does, I'd say periods, pregnancy, maybe breast tissue.
And you'd be missing about 397 other things.
Right. The source says estrogen regulates over 400 biological functions. That number blew my mind.
It is ubiquitous.
Yeah.
We already talked about brain glucose energy.
Mm-hmm.
But it also regulates serotonin and dopamine pathways.
So mood and motivation.
Correct. It regulates bone density. It controls cardiovascular health, protecting the arteries. It regulates mitochondrial function.
Which is the energy of every single cell in your body.
Every single cell.
Yeah.
And it even controls thermoregulation.
Hence the hot flashes.
The hot flash is essentially the brain's thermostat breaking because the estrogen signal was lost.
So it's a glitch.
A total glitch. The brain thinks the body is overheating and orders a massive cool-down sweat, dilated blood vessels, when it's actually 70 degrees in the room.
So when you pull the plug on estrogen, you aren't just stopping a period, you are destabilizing the cardiovascular system, the skeletal system.
The neurological system and the thermal system simultaneously.
It's a system-wide crash.
It really is. The source material compares it to pulling the plug on a server that runs 400 different websites.
Yeah.
All of them go offline or start glitching at once.
Which explains why the symptoms are so diverse. It's not just, I'm sad. It's, my joints hurt, I can't sleep, I'm anxious, I can't remember words, and I'm sweating.
It feels like the body's falling apart.
Exactly. And this is where the story gets frustrating. Because if a woman walks into a primary care office with that list of symptoms...
Anxiety, insomnia, sadness, fatigue.
Yeah, all that. What is the standard of care? What does she leave with?
Well, historically, she gets a prescription.
Yeah.
But usually not for hormones.
Right.
They treat the symptom that's complaining the loudest. If she says she's sad or anxious, she gets an antidepressant, an SSRI, or a benzodiazepine for anxiety.
Right.
Or a sleep aid.
And the Mirelle Institute is incredibly critical of this approach. They call it a failure of traditional guidelines.
They do not mince words about it.
This was the most technical part of the reading for me, but I think we need to unpack it. Because on the surface, an antidepressant sounds logical.
It does.
If you're low on serotonin, give something that boosts serotonin. What's the problem?
The problem is that SSRIs don't just stay in their lane. They have off-target effects on the endocrine system. The source cites specific studies that show a really counterproductive mechanism.
Counterproductive how?
Well, let's look at the symptoms again. Many women in this stage also complain of low libido, flat mood, and low energy.
Right.
The research shows that SSRIs can actually decrease testosterone levels.
Oh.
And for women, testosterone is crucial for libido, motivation, and muscle maintenance.
So you take a pill to feel happier, but it kills your drive and energy.
It gets worse. The studies suggest that SSRIs can interfere with dopamine-driven pathways, that's your reward system, your zest for life, and incredibly can impair ovarian steroidogenesis.
Steroidogenesis. That sounds intense. Break that down.
It's the creation of steroid hormones, the ovary's ability to actually make the hormone.
Right. Let me get this straight. The ovary is already struggling to make hormones. The brain is freaking out because of it. You take a pill to calm the brain, and that pill tells the ovaries to struggle more.
That is the paradox. You are effectively suppressing the very system that is trying to recover.
Wow.
You're treating the smoke by turning off the fire alarm while simultaneously spraying gasoline on the fire.
That is Disturbing. It's like trying to fix a car that's out of gas by cutting the fuel line.
That's a very apt analogy. The source argues that antidepressants do not correct the root cause. The root cause is the neuroendocrine reorganization we talked about.
So if antidepressants aren't the answer and we need to replace the missing hormones, we enter the world of HRT, hormone replacement therapy.
We do.
And I feel like this has been a minefield for 20 years.
It has. Ever since the WHI study in the early 2000s, everyone has been terrified of hormones.
But the source makes a very specific distinction here. They distinguish between hormonal noise and hormonal harmony. And this comes down to horses.
It comes down to horses, specifically a drug called Premarin.
Premarin,
which stands for pregnant mare's urine.
I always thought that was an urban legend. Or like a really mean nickname for the drug.
No, it's literal.
Yeah.
For decades, the standard estrogen replacement was derived from horse urine. Now, here's the science.
Okay.
Horses produce estrogen, yes, but they produce it in a complex with other molecules called equilin and equilenin.
And I'm guessing humans don't produce those.
We do not. So when a human woman takes equine estrogen, those horse-specific molecules lock into her human estrogen receptors. But they don't fit perfectly.
It's a mismatch.
It's like jamming a key that's slightly the wrong cut into a lock. It might turn, but it's going to strip the gears.
So the body doesn't know what to do with it.
The source describes this as inconsistent messaging. The cell gets a signal, but it's a garbled, noisy signal.
Hormonal noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That biological noise creates inflammation. It creates metabolic stress. It doesn't fully resolve the symptoms, and it introduces new risks.
So all those scary headlines we saw about HRT causing cancer or heart issues, were those largely based on the horse stuff?
The source argues that yes, much of the negative data comes from the use of synthetic or non-bioidentical hormones that the human body literally cannot process correctly.
So the alternative, and the standard the Mirelle Institute advocates for, is BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
Right. And the key word there is bioidentical. These are hormones that are molecularly identical to what the human body produces.
The exact same molecule.
17-beta-estradiol. Micronized progesterone. When this hits the receptor, it fits perfectly. It's the right key. There's no static.
But, and this is big but, it's not just about giving a woman some estrogen and sending her on her way.
No.
The source emphasizes the full cascade. This part felt like we were building a fantasy football team. You need more than just the quarterback.
It's a great analogy. Most people think menopause equals low estrogen. So they just top up the estrogen. But our hormones work in a symphony. If you boost the brass section but the strings are silent, the music still sounds terrible.
So let's run through the roster, because I think people forget these other players. We know about estradiol, but what about estriol?
Estriol is often overlooked, but the source notes it's crucial for protecting vaginal tissue and microbiome. It's the local defender.
And then there's progesterone. I've heard doctors say if you don't have a uterus, you don't need progesterone.
And Dr. Ianculovici would strongly disagree. Progesterone isn't just for the uterus, it's a neurosteroid.
A neurosteroid.
It protects the brain, is the calming hormone, it helps with sleep and anxiety. If you give estrogen, which is excitatory, without progesterone to balance it, you get a woman who is wired, anxious, and irritable.
Okay, so they need to be paired. What about testosterone? We usually think of that as the male hormone.
Women have plenty of testosterone, and they need it. It's vital for libido, yes, but also for confidence, muscle mass, and mental sharpness. The source says ignoring testosterone leaves a woman feeling flat.
And then two deeper cuts that I rarely hear mentioned in standard doctor visits, pregnenolone and DHEA.
These are often called precursor hormones. They're the raw materials.
Got it.
Pregnenolone is highlighted in the text for enhancing cognition, helping with that memory and word-finding issue. And DHEA supports the adrenal glands, which helps you handle stress.
So the argument is if you just replace estrogen, you're only fixing one part of the engine.
Correct. The goal described in the source is restoration. You want to restore the entire system to its optimal functioning state, not just patch one leak.
They mention precision medicine here too, genetic profiling, neuroendocrine assessment. It seems like the days of one-size-fits-all are over.
Or at least they should be. That is the future of longevity medicine. It is about looking at the individual woman's unique chemical makeup, because your hormones today might not be what your hormones need to be in 6 months.
It really paints a picture of menopause not as a disease to be managed, but as a transition that needs support.
That is the empowering part of the text.
Yeah.
There's a quote, "You are not meant to struggle, you are meant to thrive."
It's a powerful message.
It is. It reframes the narrative from coping with decline to optimizing for the next chapter.
So if we zoom out, we've gone from the brain restructuring itself to the potential dangers of SSRIs to the importance of bioidentical hormones. What is the big takeaway for you?
For me, it is the validation of the physical reality of these symptoms, that the mood changes, the relationship struggles, they have a biological root.
Right.
And because they have a biological root, they have a biological solution. It's not all in your head in the sense that you're imagining it. It's all in your head because your neurology is changing.
Right. It's hardware, not software.
Exactly.
I keep going back to that divorce stat. 44% of divorces happening in that 10-year window. It makes you wonder.
It does.
If we stop treating menopause as this silent, shameful thing, or treating it with antidepressants that numb the system, how different would society look?
It's a massive what if.
I mean, seriously. If we treated this as a brain renovation that requires specific fuel, bioidentical fuel, what happens to the workforce? What happens to marriage stability? To women's leadership?
If you retain that cognitive function, that emotional resilience, and that energy during the exact years when women are often at the peak of their careers and wisdom, the economic and social impact would be immeasurable.
We're leaving potential on the table.
A lot of potential. We are losing leaders, we are losing marriages, and we are losing stability, all because of the fear of hormones and a misunderstanding of the brain.
It's a huge thought to leave you with. Menopause isn't just a women's health issue, it's a societal one. And the science says we can do a lot better than horse urine and antidepressants.
We certainly can. Knowledge is the best prescription.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive. Hopefully it sparked some aha moments for you, whether you're going through this or you know someone who is.
Always a pleasure.
See you on the next deep dive.